You're just too perfect. You're just too first-rate
to win.
Hollywood welcomed them as sophisticated British gentlemen and ladies, handing them fame, fortune, and starring roles. But behind the polished accents and elegant manners were explosive tempers, bitter feuds, alcoholism, shocking affairs, ruthless egos, and careers consumed by scandal. Today, we're counting down 40 British stars, including Laurence Olivier, Vivien Leigh, Richard Burton, Peter O'Toole, Christopher Lee, Deborah Kerr, Joan Fontaine, and George Sanders, revealing the dark side of old Hollywood that studio publicity tried to hide. But nothing compares to number one, an actor whose chilling suicide note became one of the most infamous final messages in Hollywood history. Stay until the end, because these true stories prove that behind Hollywood's golden glamour was a far darker reality. If you're into untold Golden Age Hollywood history, hit subscribe now. Because this channel digs up the stories the old studio biographies tried to bury. Chapter 1, The Cruelest Cynics. George Sanders, Laurence Olivier, Vivien Leigh, Rex Harrison, Stuart Granger. Number 1, George Sanders. George Sanders built a career playing charming villains, and off-screen the charm mostly disappeared. He was married 4 times, including a famously volatile marriage to Sardar Gabur that ended when he left her for her sister, Magda Gabur. Colleagues described him as cutting and sarcastic, someone who stayed in character between takes just to unsettle his scene partners. He was open in interviews about not reading his fan mail. In 1972, Sanders died by suicide in Spain, leaving behind a note that read, "Dear world, I am leaving because I am bored." It remains one of the most quoted farewell notes in entertainment history. Number 2, Laurence Olivier. Widely regarded as one of the greatest stage and screen actors of the century, Olivier was also known for a temper and a competitive streak that unsettled co-stars. During the filming of Marathon Man, tension between Olivier and Dustin Hoffman over their differing acting methods became part of Hollywood lore. Olivier's marriage to Vivien Leigh, who struggled with bipolar disorder, was strained for years before the couple divorced in 1960. American directors on films like Wuthering Heights and Rebecca found him exacting and difficult to satisfy, a perfectionist who pushed back hard against direction he disagreed with. Number 3, Vivien Leigh. Vivien Leigh's talent was never in question. 2 Academy Awards prove that. But her documented struggle with bipolar disorder, undiagnosed for years, made her difficult to work with on several productions. On the set of Ship of Fools in the early 1960s, tensions between Leigh and co-star Lee Marvin became public knowledge, and reports from the production describe a set under real strain. To the public, she remained Scarlett O'Hara. To many colleagues, working with her during her most difficult periods was genuinely hard. Number 4, Rex Harrison. Rex Harrison earned the nickname Sexy Rexy from the press, but his reputation on set was far less flattering. He had a well-documented affair with actress Carol Landis, who died by suicide in 1948. Biographers have long debated what role, if any, the relationship played, and Harrison faced public criticism at the time for his handling of the aftermath. Years later, during production of My Fair Lady, Audrey Hepburn and the crew found him demanding and resistant to rehearsal, a star who believed his instincts didn't need testing. Number 5, Stuart Granger. Handsome, well-cast, and famously unhappy about it, Stuart Granger made little secret of his contempt for the acting profession itself, criticizing scripts and studio decisions in the press. Most notoriously, he was involved in a physical altercation with a director on set, an incident that shocked even hardened studio executives. He was known for being cold with fans and blunt with journalists, and he made no secret of wanting to return to England. Chapter 2, The Difficult and the Dangerous. Charles Laughlin, Richard Burton, Peter O'Toole, Basil Rathbone, Claude Rains. Number 6, Charles Laughlin. A brilliant, transformative actor, Charles Laughlin was also famously insecure and unpredictable on set. Historians and biographers have since documented that Laughlin privately struggled with his sexuality at a time when being openly gay could end a career, which contributed to real anxiety and secrecy in his professional life. He was known to be demanding with extras and bit players, and directors described him as exhausting because of his constant need for retakes. Number 7. Richard Burton. Long before his headline-making marriage to Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton arrived in Hollywood with a reputation for heavy drinking and a short fuse. He was known to show up to sets intoxicated, and stories of hotel room destruction and bar altercations followed him for years. Studio executives were wary of him because his drinking put multi-million-dollar productions at risk of delay. Number 8. Peter O'Toole. O'Toole's drinking became the stuff of Hollywood legend hotel suites destroyed, high-speed drives through Los Angeles, and shooting schedules thrown into chaos when he failed to show up on time. Producers considered him a financial liability because his unpredictability made insurance and scheduling a nightmare, even as his box office draw kept studios calling him back. Number 9. Basil Rathbone. Rathbone became forever associated with Sherlock Holmes, a role he grew to resent because he felt it overshadowed his serious stage work. That resentment reportedly spilled into his treatment of co-star Nigel Bruce, who played Dr. Watson, with colleagues describing a cool, dismissive dynamic between the two off-screen. Rathbone was also known for short, brusque press interviews and little patience for autograph seekers. Number 10. Claude Rains. A master of nuance on screen, Claude Rains privately struggled with alcohol, and colleagues described mood swings that ranged from charming to explosive. Directors including Michael Curtiz found him strong-willed about how scenes should be played, leading to friction on set. Despite his polished on-screen image, working with Rains was, by multiple accounts, unpredictable. If you're enjoying this, and I know some of these names are surprising, drop a comment with which one shocked you most so far. We're only 10 deep. 30 more to go, and the snobbery gets even more brutal. Chapter 3. The Snobs Who Hated Hollywood. Leslie Howard, James Mason, Robert Newton, Trevor Howard, Dirk Bogarde. Number 11. Leslie Howard. Best remembered as Ashley Wilkes in Gone with the Wind, Leslie Howard privately viewed his Hollywood work as beneath his classical training. He avoided studio publicity events and was known for blunt, dismissive comments about the American film industry to the press, souring relationships with journalists and studio executives alike. Number 12. James Mason. Mason's cool, intellectual screen persona wasn't far from his reputation off-camera. He rarely socialized with colleagues, preferring to keep to himself between takes, and gave interviews laced with cynicism about the film industry he worked in. Fans who approached him were often met with a curt response. Number 13. Robert Newton. Newton's talent was real, but his alcoholism became career-defining. He frequently arrived on set unable to perform, and productions had to be planned around his condition. His performance as Long John Silver, one of the most influential pirate portrayals in film history, was shaped in part by his own turbulent lifestyle. He died at 50, a loss the industry had come to see as tragically foreseeable. Number 14. Trevor Howard. Howard built a screen reputation as the dependable British officer, but off-screen he was a heavy drinker with a volatile temper, prone to long silences followed by sudden outbursts. Directors found him stubborn and resistant to notes, and colleagues describe a man whose private life stayed carefully guarded from the public. Number 15. Dirk Bogarde. Bogarde never hid his disdain for the Hollywood studio system, and it cost him. His press interviews were sharp and sarcastic enough to alienate American journalists, and he was known for ignoring fans outside studio gates. He eventually left Hollywood altogether to pursue art house cinema in Europe, where he found the creative freedom he felt Hollywood denied him. Chapter 4. The Bullies and the Backstabbers. Stanley Baker, David Niven, Robert Morley, Christopher Lee, Richard Todd. Number 16. Stanley Baker. The Welsh actor brought a rough, working-class intensity to his roles and to his behavior on set. Baker had a reputation for confrontations with crew members and reporters, and he was known to push hard for top billing and better treatment, often through sheer force of personality. Number 17. David Niven. Niven spent his career crafting a public image as Hollywood's most charming British gentleman. But according to several contemporaries, that polish concealed a sharper, more calculating side, a reputation as a skilled gossip at Hollywood social gatherings, with a cutting sense of humor that could sting as much as it entertained. Number 18. Robert Morley. Morley made a career playing pompous authority figures, and colleagues say the persona wasn't much of a stretch. He was known for demanding requests about food and comfort on set, and for tantrums when those demands weren't met immediately, behavior that frustrated directors used to a tighter production schedule. Number 19. Christopher Lee. Long before he became one of the most beloved figures in genre filmmaking, a young Christopher Lee had a reputation for aristocratic coldness. He reportedly looked down on the horror productions that gave him his early fame, complaining about low budgets and rarely engaging in casual conversation with crew between takes. Number 20. Richard Todd. Todd's career in 1950s Hollywood was undercut by a stubborn streak and a temper that could flare over minor script changes. Combined with increasing reliance on alcohol, his behavior grew unpredictable enough that studios eventually decided the trouble wasn't worth his box office returns. Halfway through the list, and the pattern is clear talent didn't guarantee good behavior. If you want more deep dives like this into the real history behind the glamour, subscribe now so you don't miss the next one. Chapter 5: The Icy Intellectuals. John Gielgud, Alec Guinness, Michael Redgrave, Cedric Hardwicke, C. Aubrey Smith. Number 21. John Gielgud. Gielgud arrived in Hollywood as stage royalty, and he never fully let go of that identity. Directors sensed a man who viewed film as commercially beneath the theater, and while his performances in works like Julius Caesar and later Beckett brought prestige to a production, colleagues often described a cool distance that was hard to break through. Number 22. Alec Guinness. Guinness treated fame with visible discomfort, which read to some as arrogance. His performances in The Bridge on the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia proved he could anchor a major production quietly, but he had little patience for shallow questions from the press and preferred serious material over stardom for its own sake. Number 23. Michael Redgrave. Redgrave carried an anxious, private intensity that many in the industry mistook for aloofness. Trained in the disciplined British stage tradition, he found Hollywood's culture of self-promotion exhausting, and directors and publicists alike described him as difficult to read and hard to package for American audiences. Number 24. Cedric Hardwicke. Hardwicke's booming presence made him perfect for judges, generals, and authority figures, and just as commanding off-camera. He was blunt and formal, with little patience for uncertainty from directors or looseness from fellow actors, and crew members often described feeling inspected rather than welcomed on his sets. Number 25. C. Aubrey Smith. Smith became the symbolic head of the so-called British colony in Hollywood, a tight social circle of expatriate actors known for their cricket matches and old-world manners. To outsiders, that colony could feel exclusionary, a private club of accents and hierarchy operating inside the American film industry. Chapter 6: The Guarded A&E the Grand. Ronald Colman, Herbert Marshall, George Arliss, Noel Coward, Ivor Novello. Number 26. Ronald Colman. Colman's velvet voice made him a romantic idol, but his intense privacy frustrated a studio system built on constant publicity. He avoided the Hollywood social circuit almost entirely, which studio executives, eager to sell every hour of a star's life, found difficult to work with. Number 27. Herbert Marshall. Marshall's restrained, dignified screen presence carried over into his private life, and that restraint could read as emotional distance. He rarely engaged in Hollywood's social rituals, and while producers found him reliable, some felt he lacked the accessibility the star system demanded. Number 28. George Arliss. One of the earliest British stage veterans to dominate the sound era, George Arliss won an Academy Award for Disraeli and used the authority that came with it fully. He was known to influence casting and material on his productions, a level of creative control that could feel overwhelming to directors and younger actors alike. Number 29. Noel Coward. Coward's wit was his weapon. As a writer, composer, and performer, he had little patience for weak material or fake sophistication, and he rarely hid his boredom in a town built on flattery. Producers wanted his elegance, but not always his blunt opinions. Number 30. Ivor Novello. A romantic idol, composer, and playwright, Novello understood the power of image before modern celebrity branding existed, and that self-awareness could read as vanity. His theatrical, carefully staged manner stood out against Hollywood's increasingly fast and cynical style. Chapter 7: The Women Hollywood Couldn't Control. Gladys Cooper, Elsa Lanchester, Margaret Rutherford, Deborah Kerr, Jean Simmons. Number 31, Gladys Cooper. Cooper brought decades of stage experience to Hollywood, and it showed in a no-nonsense confidence that some read as coldness. In films like Now, Voyager, and The Song of Bernadette, she brought precision and control qualities that made her intimidating to co-stars who lacked her discipline. Number 32, Elsa Lanchester. Immortalized by a few minutes of screen time in Bride of Frankenstein, Lanchester was too eccentric for conventional Hollywood glamour and too sharp to be easily managed. Her marriage to Charles Laughton placed her inside one of the era's more complicated public partnerships, and colleagues describe her as witty, unpredictable, and unwilling to be packaged as a typical studio actress. Number 33, Margaret Rutherford. Rutherford's unconventional comic timing made her unforgettable in films like Blithe Spirit and the Miss Marple pictures, and hard for directors to direct. Her performances bent the rhythm of a scene toward her, which could frustrate co-stars unaccustomed to being upstaged by a supporting player. Number 34, Deborah Kerr. Kerr was marketed as the picture of refined, proper British womanhood, and she often pushed back against that image. Her famous beach scene in From Here to Eternity shocked audiences precisely because it broke from the persona the studio had built for her. She was known to be private and firm with the press, which some executives found difficult to manage. Number 35, Jean Simmons. Simmons arrived in Hollywood young and marketable, but she consistently pushed for better roles, better contract terms, and greater creative respect, a stance that clashed with a studio system built on compliant, grateful stars. That resistance made her unpopular with certain executives, despite her clear talent. Chapter 8: The Final Five. Joan Fontaine, Merle Oberon, Anna Neagle, Hermione Gingold, Kay Kendall. Number 36, Joan Fontaine. Fontaine's fragile on-screen presence in films like Rebecca and Suspicion masked a sharper, more competitive personality. Her decades-long, well-documented feud with her sister Olivia de Havilland became one of Hollywood's most famous family rivalries, and colleagues described her as capable of pointed, cutting remarks in interviews. Number 37, Merle Oberon. Oberon carefully guarded her personal history throughout her career, at a time when Hollywood studios pressured performers to reshape their backgrounds to fit marketable narratives. That secrecy fueled industry gossip for years, and some colleagues found her demanding about lighting and camera angles, understanding better than most how fragile a constructed image could be. Number 38, Anna Neagle. A major star in Britain, Neagle never fully translated to the American market. Her polished, disciplined manner, sometimes read as stiff by Hollywood standards, and her close, long-running partnership with producer-director Herbert Wilcox led some industry insiders to view her career as operating inside a protected bubble. Number 39, Hermione Gingold. Gingold's blunt, theatrical comic style in films like Gigi and The Music Man meant she rarely faded into the background of a scene. Directors sometimes had to adjust entire scenes around her distinct rhythm, and Hollywood's tendency to tolerate difficult men more easily than difficult women shaped how her reputation was framed at the time. Number 40, Kay Kendall. Kendall's high-energy comic performances in films like Genevieve and Les Girls made her a scene stealer, which didn't always endear her to co-stars sharing the frame. Publicists valued her elegance, but sometimes struggled with her unpredictability, and her career was cut tragically short by her early death. That's all 40. Some were addicts, some were bullies, some were simply too proud or too guarded for a studio system built on obedience and easy smiles. What all of them prove is the same thing: old Hollywood's glamour was a surface. And behind almost every one of these names was a much rougher story than the fan magazines ever printed. Which one surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. And if you want more real, fact-check deep dives into the darker side of the Golden Age, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this channel is just getting started on these stories.